Every spring, gardeners across America drag rented rototillers across their yards, roll out sheets of plastic landscape fabric that slowly strangle the soil beneath them, and stack bags of store-bought topsoil they already own the makings of. They spend hundreds of dollars every season fighting their own ground. And every single week, the most powerful soil-building material on Earth gets flattened, bundled, and set out at the curb for collection. Cardboard. A market gardener in England has not turned a single spade of his soil since 1982, and his beds out-yield the dug plots right beside them. Here is what the lawn and garden industry would rather you never put together. His name is Charles Dowding, and in 1982 he stopped digging. Not for a season, for good. While the rest of the gardening world was selling tillers and telling people that healthy soil had to be broken open every spring, Dowding laid organic matter on top of the ground and let the soil life do the work underneath. 4 decades later, his market garden in Somerset produces tens of thousands of pounds of vegetables a year from beds that have never seen a blade. The method was never a secret. It was just inconvenient to a business model. Because there is a business model. The lawn and garden industry sells billions of dollars in rototillers, landscape fabric, weed killer, and bagged soil every year, all built on a single quiet assumption. That your soil is a problem you have to fix with something you buy. Till it. Cover it. Spray it. Replace it. 4 products to solve one problem that a flattened box solves for free. The research has been catching up for years. An on-farm field study funded by the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program found earthworm populations 2 to 3 times higher under cardboard sheet mulch than under the control, and those worms were still there long after the cardboard had broken down. University extension offices from Oregon State to Penn State to Maryland have documented the same pattern. No tillage. More biology. Better soil, year after year, building instead of depleting. Here are the 5 cardboard techniques that build forever fertile soil. Technique 1. Sheet mulching. The 40-year lawn killer. Picture the traditional way to turn a lawn into a garden. You rent a sod cutter or a tiller, you sweat through a weekend, you haul away strips of turf, and the moment you are done, the buried weed seeds you just churned to the surface begin to sprout. Now picture the other way. You lay cardboard flat across the grass, you cover it with 4 to 6 inches of compost or mulch, and you walk away. 6 months later, the grass underneath is dead. The cardboard has dissolved, and what remains is dark, loose, worm-rich soil ready to plant. This is the core of Charles Dowding's no-dig method, and it is the single most documented technique in this video. The cardboard blocks every photon of light from reaching the grass and weeds below. With no light, the existing vegetation dies and breaks down in place, feeding the soil rather than filling a yard waste bag. Meanwhile, the moist layer of decomposing cardboard becomes a magnet for earthworms, which tunnel up to feed on it, aerate the soil as they move, and leave nutrient-rich castings behind. That SARE field study is the number to remember. Earthworm populations were 2 to 3 times higher than the untreated ground, and still elevated after the cardboard was gone. Oregon State University Extension notes that sheet mulching preserves soil structure precisely because it skips tillage, which protects the fungal networks and prevents the erosion that a tiller causes. The financial math is just as direct. Sheet mulching eliminates the $100 weekend tiller rental. It replaces $30 to $50 of plastic landscape fabric, and it does the job better because cardboard feeds the soil as it disappears while fabric chokes it and has to be pulled up years later in tattered strips. To do it right, pull off any plastic tape, shipping labels, and staples first. Overlap the edges of each piece by at least 6 inches so no light sneaks through the seams. Soak the cardboard thoroughly with a hose, then cover it with 4 to 6 inches of compost, wood chips, or mulch. The wetting and the breathable top layer are not optional. They are what keep the soil underneath alive and active while the lawn dies above. Lay it in fall, plant in spring. Technique 2. The cardboard worm bin. Your free worm factory. A pound of red wiggler worms costs $35 to $50 from a supplier. Most gardeners pay it, set up a bin, and treat that pound of worms as the finished product. They have it backwards. That pound of worms is a starter culture, and the cheapest, fastest food you can give it to multiply is sitting in your recycling bin right now. Here is what to do. Shred cardboard into thin strips, soak it until it feels like a wrung-out sponge, and layer it in a bin with your kitchen scraps. The cardboard is not filler. For composting worms, high cellulose bedding like shredded cardboard is close to ideal, a fact documented by extension programs at Penn State, the University of Maryland, and Utah State. It holds the moisture worms need, it provides the airy structure they need to breathe, and as it softens, it feeds the bacteria and fungi that the worms in turn eat. The species that matters here is Eisenia foetida, the red wiggler. This is the worm that thrives in a bin, breeds quickly, and eats voraciously. Under good conditions, a red wiggler population can double in as little as 2 to 3 months, and then double again. That is the engine behind this channel's whole philosophy. You do not buy worms, you grow more worms, and they grow more soil. One correction worth making, because you will see it done wrong everywhere. Do not stock your bin with common garden earthworms or night crawlers dug from the yard. Those are deep burrowing soil species, and they will die in a bin. Red wigglers are surface feeders built for exactly this environment. Get the species right, and the rest takes care of itself. The real prize is what comes out the bottom. Worm castings, the single finest natural fertilizer in existence, neutral in pH, impossible to burn your plants with, and packed with the biology no bag of synthetic fertilizer can deliver. You can build a working bin from a plastic tote for under $50, keep it between 55 and 75 degrees in the dark, and feed it kitchen scraps and shredded cardboard indefinitely. You will never buy worms or castings again. Technique 3. Lasagna gardening. Instant soil in layers. In the rocky hills of the New York Catskills, an innkeeper named Patricia Lanza had no time, no tiller, and a need for fresh herbs. So she stopped fighting the ground and started building on top of it, laying down alternating layers of organic material, like the layers of a pasta dish. She called it lasagna gardening, and in 1998, her book on the method, published by Rodale Press, won the Garden Writers Association's Quill and Trowel Award. The technique was not entirely new. Lanza's gift was making it simple enough that anyone could build a garden in an afternoon. Here is how it works. You start with a base layer of cardboard directly on the ground, exactly as in sheet mulching, to smother the grass and weeds. Then you alternate green materials, which are nitrogen-rich, with brown materials, which are carbon-rich. Greens are things like kitchen scraps, fresh grass clippings, and coffee grounds. Browns are dried leaves, straw, and more shredded cardboard. You finish with a layer of compost on top, and within about 30 days, the bed has begun to break down into soil you can plant directly. The reason it works is the carbon-to-nitrogen balance. Cornell's composting research puts the ideal ratio for fast, healthy decomposition near 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. Green materials alone are too rich in nitrogen and turn into a slimy, stinking mess. Cardboard and the other browns supply the carbon backbone that the microbes need for energy, and that balance is what fuels the explosion of beneficial biology that turns a stack of waste into a garden bed. It is the same principle permaculture growers have relied on for decades. To build one, clear nothing. Lay overlapped, wetted cardboard right over the existing lawn. Add a layer of greens a couple of inches thick, then a thicker layer of browns, and keep alternating, watering each layer as you go, until the bed stands 8 to 18 inches tall. Cap it with finished compost. The pile will settle as it cooks down, and by planting time you have a raised bed full of living soil that cost you nothing but the materials most people throw away. Technique 4. Cardboard as a compost activator. The carbon key. Almost every home compost pile fails the same way. It goes wet, slimy, and foul-smelling, and it never seems to finish. The cause is almost always the same. Too much nitrogen, not enough carbon. Kitchen scraps, grass clippings, and coffee grounds pile up fast, and they are all nitrogen-heavy greens. Without enough carbon to balance them, the nitrogen escapes as ammonia gas, which is the source of that rotten smell, and the whole process stalls. Cardboard is the fix, and Charles Dowding has been quietly using it for 40 years. Shredded cardboard carries a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio somewhere between 350 and 500 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. Kitchen scraps sit far lower, closer to 15 to 1. When you add wet shredded cardboard to a nitrogen-heavy pile, you pull the whole mix toward that ideal balance near 30 to 1, where the microbes do their best and fastest work. The effect is immediate and obvious. The smell disappears because the nitrogen now has carbon to bond with instead of gassing off. The pile heats up properly, which speeds decomposition, and the finished compost comes out finer, darker, and more crumbly because the cardboard breaks down into soft, uniform material rather than the lumps you get from woodier browns. Dowding devoted an entire book to compost in 2024 for exactly this reason. To him, getting the carbon right is the whole game. The method is simple. Shred your cardboard, soak it, and add it to the pile in a rough proportion of about 2 parts browns to 1 part greens by volume. You do not need to weigh anything. If the pile smells bad, add more cardboard. If it is dry and not breaking down, add more greens and water. Turn it every couple of weeks. You will cut your compost timeline noticeably, and what you pull out the bottom will be worm-rich, finished compost instead of a stalled, stinking heap. Technique number 5. The Hugelkultur base layer. The buried foundation. Raised beds have 2 stubborn problems. They dry out fast in summer because they sit up in the air on all sides, and weeds and grass creep up into them from the soil below. A single layer of cardboard laid at the very bottom of the bed, before you add anything else, solves both at once. The cardboard acts as a barrier against the perennial grasses and weed roots trying to climb up from the native soil underneath. The same light-blocking trick as sheet mulching, just buried. At the same time, as it absorbs water and slowly breaks down, it holds moisture in the base of the bed and releases it back to the roots above during dry spells. Over a season or 2, the cardboard dissolves completely and becomes part of the soil profile, leaving behind the worm activity it attracted while it lasted. This technique pairs naturally with Hugelkultur, the practice of burying logs and woody material at the base of a bed to act as a long-term moisture sponge. The cardboard goes down first, directly on the cleared ground, then the wood, then your soil and compost on top. The cardboard handles the weeds and the early moisture retention, while the buried wood takes over the long game. To use it, line the bottom of your raised bed or Hugelkultur mound with overlapping sheets of cardboard, tape, and staples removed, and wet it down. Add your logs or woody debris if you are going the Hugelkultur route, then fill the rest of the bed with soil and compost. It is a one-time step at build, and it costs you nothing but a few flattened boxes. These 5 techniques are not 5 separate tricks. They are one idea seen from 5 angles. Cardboard is carbon, and carbon, placed where soil life can reach it, is the raw material of permanent fertility. The knowledge behind it never went anywhere. While the lawn and garden industry was selling the annual ritual of tilling, spraying, and replacing, a quiet line of growers kept the simpler truth alive. Charles Dowding has been proving it in Somerset since 1982. Patricia Lanza wrote it down for ordinary gardeners in 1998. Permaculture practitioners built it into their core teaching, and countless homesteaders rediscovered it on their own, the way Lanza did, out of nothing more than a lack of time and a refusal to dig. The universities followed. Extension offices at Oregon State, Penn State, Maryland, Utah State, and Cornell have published the field research and the practical guides, documenting higher earthworm counts, healthier soil structure, faster compost, and the carbon balance that makes all of it work. The evidence is no longer anecdotal. It is just rarely advertised, because nobody profits from telling you that the box on your doorstep is the best soil amendment you will ever own. Terra Preta took an ancient civilization to build. This takes a recycling bin. Start by clearing the easiest patch of lawn you have. Pull the tape, lay the cardboard, soak it, and cover it. If you want a bed you can plant within a month. Layer it lasagna style. If your compost has gone sour, feed it shredded cardboard until the smell is gone. And if you want an army of worms making fertilizer for you for free, start a bin and let cellulose do the recruiting. The total cost for all 5 techniques is, in practice, nothing. The cardboard is waste you were going to give away. Together, these methods replace a $100 tiller rental, $30 to $50 of landscape fabric, the bagged topsoil, the weed killer, and the $35 to $50 per pound of worms. They do not strip your soil at the end of the season the way synthetic shortcuts do. They build it, every year better than the last. The box in your recycling bin is not trash. It is soil that has not happened yet. If this one freed up your ground for you, subscribe to Hank's gardening journey and ring the bell. Every like and every share helps more gardeners stop fighting their soil and start growing more worms. The next one drops soon.